Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jukka Vesa. I am the sales engineer for the Nordic region of Zyzel. And today we are holding a webinar about our SD-WAN solution called Nebula Orchestrator. So let's start with a few words generally about Nebula. Nebula is our cloud-based platform which includes the Nebula Orchestrator, the SD-WAN solution we are here to talk about today. And then we have the Nebula Control Center, also known as the NCC. And the devices as of now, they do not mix and match. So the Nebula Orchestrator is only for the VPN series gateways, and the Nebula Control Center has a wide variety of devices you can use on that platform. But as said, the topic of today is the SD-WAN solution. So SD-WAN Nebula Orchestrator. So let's start off. What is SD-WAN? Well, SD-WAN comes from a software-defined wide area network. So SD-WAN. It's basically designed to optimize WAN connections between branches. WAN optimization, dynamic path selection, getting connections between branches and HQs more reliable and faster, and also be more cost effective for replacing ISP provided methods like MPLS. I forgot to mention in the beginning that we have a Q&A session at the end. So if you have any questions, please just write them to the questions or chat section, and we'll cover them all at the end. So continuing on the topic at hand, SD-WAN solutions have been out there for quite a while. But what have we done is brought them to an affordable level for SMBs and small and medium-sized businesses. So same type of technology, but in a more affordable solution and equipment. So just a few bulleting points on what are the needs of SMBs and VAR and MSPs for SD-WAN, and why do we need solutions like this? SMBs are more and more using, or small and medium businesses are more and more using cloud-based solutions, services, file shares, etc. hosted in cloud-based services. And as they are over WAN connections, it is good to have that WAN connection as reliable and fast as possible. So reliable and low latency internet connections, definitely the same need for them. Faster connectivity, meaning that when you used to hold servers at your own premises, the LAN connections were faster than the WAN connections, so you can easily and fastly download the file shares you have locally available. But since many have moved to cloud-based storage, downloading files take more time. So once again, we need more speed. Looking for increased security. So data traffic, of course, needs to be secure when you are moving files over the internet from a branch to another or from a cloud service to your own local PC. And since they are not locally stored anymore that much, then you need to transfer them securely. Ease of scalability. Offices do move, companies do open up new offices, and solutions need to be easily scalable and easily integrable to the existing systems. Cost reductions on devices themselves, on installation times, and of course on ongoing connectivity. And if once again hosting things over the cloud is all good and fine, but if you lose your internet connectivity, you might not be able to do your work, and that of course is quite expensive. So moving on the WAS and MSP side, try to maximize what connectivity is available, meaning that you, in many cases, you do not have the fiber connection available, which is fast and reliable, but you need to make do with what you have, old DSL lines perhaps, LTE connections, really depending on the location. So we are able to utilize multiple connections and make the best out of them, what is available. Easier control and deployment and management, centralized management platform for the gateways, and easy to control the gateways from that, and of course a deployment made as easy as possible, so no local configuration on the gateways needed. Reducing complexity. So creating VPN tunnels, for example, from a gateway to another, and a whole huge network of gateways. You need to create a tunnel between each and every gateway, and possibly routing rules to say which way the traffic should flow. And that leads to complex configurations and of course complex troubleshootings if something goes wrong. Removing bottlenecks from client networks. So if, for example, you are using a hub and spoke method on the gateways, you will create a bottleneck from your HQ or a hub gateway, being it the device capability at itself or the ISP connections at that site. Network diversities. So once again, we can utilize what is available from LTE, VDSLs, fiber connections, etc. Bandwidth management and traffic shaping, and with applications as well. So we are able to either bandwidth manage or prioritize based on either applications or interfaces, etc. easily, so nobody will starve their bandwidth, or we can manage that some applications do not take as much bandwidth as they normally would. Okay, then we go into a bit more detail about how does traditional VPN networks nowadays work and what are the drawbacks of them. So traditionally, we need to create VPN tunnels between locations for have a secure connection between these two offices, for example, one in UK and one in Denmark. And for this to happen, we need to configure a VPN tunnel in both ends. And of course, that's good and fine. But when we start to add more locations, and in this example, the Danish site is working as a hub, and the both UK sites need to communicate with each other. So we have two options. In this example, we are using the Danish site as a hub, and then the data is being transferred through the Danish site. And that of course requires one more tunnel in both ends and policy routes, so the locations know that the traffic has to flow through the HQ or a hub site. And connectivity checks, for example, in normal VPN connections are based on basic criteria, like for example, are the ports up or down, or ping checks to a certain any set IP address, but that only defines if the line is up or down. It doesn't actually tell anything about the quality of the connection. If the response is being received, then the line is up, period. When we start adding more and more sites through this hub connection that we have on the Danish side, we encounter issues with a bottleneck or a choke point, meaning that either the gateway hardware itself or the ISP connections might become overwhelmed by the data traffic flowing through the HQ site and slowing each and every connection down with it. The way to get around this, of course, is to create direct site-to-site tunnels or a mesh network between each and every location. But of course, this needs, once again, more configuration to each and every site, more routes to each and every site, and also becomes fairly difficult to troubleshoot if the traffic isn't flowing the correct direction. And it might result to having to buy bigger gateways in each and every location just due to the simple fact that they need to support X amount of VPN tunnels. So what if we have multiple WAN connections between the locations? Currently, we can only add a primary and a secondary connection. And if the primary connection goes down, we start using the secondary connection for the VPN failover. And this is all good and fine. Of course, it needs, once again, more configuration, since we are using more WAN connections, but it provides us a resiliency when the connection actually goes down. But if the connection is just degraded, so the quality of the connection gets worse, latency gets worse, maybe it has packet loss, jitter, etc. But technically the connection is up. So you start seeing issues like dropping pixelating video calls, choppy voice on Skype calls, etc., low transfer speeds, downloads getting cut, etc. All sorts of issues. Okay, so what can Nebula Orchestrator and SD-WAN do to help with these issues? Just a short summary on what do we offer, and then we go into more detail on what each and every of these features actually do. So zero-touch provisioning, meaning that the deployment of the gateways and the clients have been done as easy as possible. Dynamic path selection is a method to always choose the best possible path of transmission. WAN optimization is optimizing the WAN traffic performance between the sites. Content filtering is a management tool for managing web browsing. So you can either block, allow, or monitor, or many different types. Application intelligence enables you to prioritize and manage application bandwidth usage or even block certain applications. Dynamic mesh VPN dynamically connects branches and HQs to each other, creating a dynamic mesh VPN. So removing bottlenecks is the idea of that function. And then we start going into more details on these functions. And first we start off with WAN optimization and application intelligence. So WAN optimization optimizes TCP acceleration, and it optimizes latency, packet loss, and jitter based on whichever connection has the best available and utilizes that connection. So maximizing efficiency of internet data transmissions. Application patrol, or application intelligence, is prioritizing per application. So we can, for example, prioritize VoIP applications and video calls, so we don't see the lagging videos or pixelating videos when we have a conference call or perhaps a webinar. Dynamic path selection. It continuously measures the connection quality between the locations, and if it finds a degraded connection, it is able to use the best path available for a certain applications on certain parameters. So, for example, let's take a VoIP call once again, which does not really require much bandwidth, but it requires a good quality connection with low latency. So if the fiber connection or an LTE connection with higher throughput is being degraded, it might use the DSL line with lower latency and better quality of connection for the voice calls. And of course, it has the ability to move back and forth from a connection to another, depending which connection gives the best result to that application. Technically, it constantly utilizes all available WAN connections and constantly monitors which connection is best for which type of traffic. So, for example, a DSL connection might be better for VoIP transmissions, but when you start downloading something, it might utilize the LTE connection because the throughput of that connection is better. Dynamic Mesh VPN. It will originally have a connection through the hub, but once a data transmission is being initialized, for example, from UK to the Italian branch office, it will automatically create a VPN tunnel between these two locations and start using that as the connection for the transfer. The client won't actually notice anything except that the download speeds and the line quality gets better, since it has a few hops in between and there is a direct connection between these two locations. And when the data transfer is being stopped, it will automatically close the tunnel, and when the next data transfer is being done, the whole process goes over and over again, meaning that the initialization goes through the HQ site, and then it opens up dynamically tunnels between the branch offices to remove the HQ as a choke point, and also giving the best possible transfer speeds, etc., through the direct tunnel between the two locations. Then a test of ours, we did a file transfer between our German and our HQ office in Taiwan. We moved a Linux image file 1.9 gigs between these two offices, and without WAN optimization, the file download took 2 hours and 40 minutes, and the average speed was 300 kilobits per second. The connection information you can see below, and the latency and the information on that connection isn't really good, so it's an optimal scenario for WAN optimization. And when enabling WAN optimization, the transfer time took 10 minutes, and the average speed for downloading this file was at 24 megabits per second. So we see a huge improvement, especially on bad quality lines or long VPN tunnels geographically. This chart here shows that when the worse the line actually is, the more benefit you see from the SD-WAN solution and the WAN optimization. The number one there is a mostly an optimal scenario anyway, so we see fairly minimal improvements on the transfer speeds. But as the line goes worse and worse, we see more and more benefit of the WAN optimization. Now I will shut up for a while and play you a video. It's a short video with a live demonstration side by side data transfer measured via an iPerf with WAN optimization off and on. So enjoy. So as you see from the iPerf throughput test that we created with those specifications, it was 150 milliseconds of latency. So you see a real big and clear difference between the transfer speeds on the two locations. So now we move a bit on the management and installation side. So it's a cloud managed platform, as Nebula is, and it's a 3-level topology. Site being the actual site and the location where the gateway is located at. Organization is the company, and group being a free-form group that you can group certain companies into. Of course, site-to-site tunneling is automated, and you can also set organization wide settings, plus that you can combine organizations to each other if you need. So also tunneling between organizations inside the same group is possible and made as easy as possible. Security features that are available, firewall of course, but added to that are Geo Enforcer, so you can, for example, block certain countries or areas of the world, content filtering for web browsing management and blocking, and application patrol for application management and even blocking. Switching between the cloud solution and a standalone solution is as easy as either adding or removing the device from the cloud solution. So it is not a final choice in any way if you want to test this. So just add the device to the cloud solution and you can manage it via the Nebula Orchestrator cloud. And if you decide that's not your thing, or the device needs to be moved to another site which has other requirements than the SD-WAN, you can just remove and move the device to another location and then just use it as standalone again. But it's easy and I really do recommend trying it out. Deploying of the gateways done as easy as possible. Once again, there are 3 methods available of deploying the gateways. The first one, as shown on the slide, is a USB stick. So you send an email from the Nebula Orchestrator once you create your organization and your settings, and as an email attachment you have the auto-runnable configuration file, and then you just plug in the USB stick to your gateway and it will automatically get those settings from there, and there is no manual labor needed whatsoever, and of course less competent installers can also do this on site. So doesn't really need to be a technically capable person who does the physical installation on site. The other 2 methods are the email includes an activation script link. So you connect your laptop to the LAN side of the gateway and run that script, and it will automatically deploy the settings within that script to that gateway. And the third method is a link provided via an SMS that does the same thing. So connecting site to site VPN tunnels or client to site VPN tunnels, you just tick which one of the locations is the hub and which ones are the branch, and it will handle the rest. Of course, you can define nitty-gritty settings if you wish to, but as a standard, it's very easy to set up. It will automatically create the tunnels for you within that organization or between organizations, even if you wish. But mostly just on-off settings and a role management of different sites and locations. Client installation, it utilizes the native L2TP client of the device, and from the Nebula Orchestrator you send an email to the device and run a script which then deploys the client settings to that device. So no manual configuration needed on the client side either, but of course you need to have a system administrator rights to that PC for it to actually do the settings. And currently we support Windows, Mac OS and iOS for the script. The devices that support Nebula Orchestrator, we have 3 models available, the VPN series devices, so VPN 5000 and 300. The stats you see on the page, but the major differences between the gateways is that the 2 smallest ones, 50 and 100, are fanless, so they can be easily used as desktop devices because they don't produce any noise, and also the port roles are predefined on those devices, so you have a certain amount of WAN and LAN ports. On VPN 300, every port is configurable on its own, so you can just, the port role can be chosen. Every device also has an SFP port, which is an optional port, so it can be used either as a WAN LAN or a general port. So whichever port role you choose. Licenses of the Nebula Orchestrator. The devices come with 1 year of license, and you see the differences on screen. So basically you drop, if you just use the free version, after the 1 year you still have the management, but you use the dynamic path selection, band optimization, content filtering, and GeoEnforcer. And of course, content filtering and GeoEnforcers are based on third-party databases, so we have to pay for them as well. And you won't see as long of a log from the Nebula Orchestrator, and the update frequency will be 10 minutes instead of 3 or 3 seconds in live mode with the full license. And as a deployment method, SMS isn't available either. But otherwise the management is there. Okay, so that was the presentation. Hope you got something out of it and are interested. If there are any questions, I will go through and cover them now. As far as I can see, there is not any questions, but I will stay online for another 5-ish minutes. Oh. What is the price for Nebula? The paid version is the question. The devices come with 1 year, and hope we are not mixing the Nebula Control Center and Nebula Orchestrator. The device, the prices are dependent on the device as well, and you can find the prices from your local distributor, for example. I will still wait for a few minutes if there are any more questions. If there is none, I will thank you all for attending. Something that I need to mention as well is that for the people that attended this webinar, we are running a campaign for 15% off of the all devices, but for people that have attended, we are giving out 25% of discount on all the VPN devices. So just an initiative that you might want to try them out. Yeah. I will still wait for a few minutes if there is anything more. If there is not, I will thank you all for attending the webinar. Can I see the webinar again someplace? There will be a recording of this webinar, so you can download it and view it when it's convenient for you. And we are also running a second session later on March live. So you can either view the recording or attend the second session as well. And of course, you can contact me whenever you wish. My email is jukka@zeiser.fi. If there are any questions that pop up after this webinar. There is a question that can I show a short demo how to set it up? Well, I can show you the interface, but I only have one device set up there, and that's not even online, so it won't have much content on it, unfortunately, but I can show you the interface itself, of course. Oh, but let's see if the Okay, so I hope you see my screen. So this is the interface of it, and you can, from certain places, it's the installation itself first guides you through to a wizard when adding your devices and what settings do you do, etc. And from a certain level, you do a certain type of settings. But unfortunately, I don't have much content in here, but for example, if you wish to create device-based settings for a single device, you go to a site and device level and define zoning and gateway rules, firewall rules, etc. from here. Or from organization side, profiles, alerts, etc. and different types of monitoring interfaces on different types of levels. It will draw you a nice picture of tunnels in between and shows the health status of the tunnels, etc. But unfortunately, this is a bit blank since I only have one device that has never been online here. But you can easily try it out yourself. Just go to nebula.zyxel.com. Okay, thank you all that are still there. I think I will shut down the webinar since there aren't any more questions popping up. But as said, feel free to contact me afterwards. You have my contact details, so jukka@zyxel.fi, and we can go through these in more details if you wish to. Thank you, and have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.